Happy Monday morning. I'm headed off to work. If you are watching this, then most likely you've watched the Big Bear 100K vlog where I ran my first 100K. If not, then go watch that right now. Should be up here in one of these corners. But in this vlog, I'll talk a little bit about my thoughts about the race, post-race recap, all those different kinds of things. Typically on Monday mornings, I am headed off to procedures. However, this morning, one of the quirks of this fellowship is that if someone calls in sick, then you cover their patients. So unfortunately, I'm not doing procedures. I'm going to be in clinic this morning, so I'm headed off to do that. First, I have a journal club to give at 7, and then clinic, and then that's a Monday. So take you along another week in the life of a fellow physician. Coverage is done. Now headed back to the other location for my regularly scheduled clinic this afternoon. Gonna stop for some coffee at a very well regarded coffee shop here in Phoenix, because now I get a chance to. So I'll take you along, and then we got the other half of the day to go. It is Wednesday. Not very good at vlogging this week. I've pretty much not really recorded much of this week, but today's my half day, as you guys know, and I am working on a ton of stuff just sitting here at my desk. I've essentially just been working on podcast stuff because I've been kind of shirking that responsibility. So now this race is over, I have more time to do other things. So I'm mostly working the podcast. I just scheduled 3 uploads. I'm working on all the clips for it. So yeah, just grinding away. Not a really good vlogger this week. Apologies for that. Later on in this video, I'll have my thoughts on the Big Bear 100K, so stay tuned for that. It is Friday afternoon. I am done with work. Got done a little bit early because my last patient no-showed. I'm just going to take this time to chat about the race a little bit. It's now been 2 full weeks since the Kodiak 100K. For those of you who watched the video, thank you very much. If you have not, then it's going to be in one of these corners up here somewhere. So go watch that. It's an overview or a recap of kind of the 100K and the actual experience of running it. But kind of overall thoughts, I'm overall not too disappointed with how it went. Obviously, there's disappointment of not finishing the 100K, not finishing the goal that I set out for originally. And it's just that 13 miles left, so a half marathon left, which doesn't seem like a lot for me, given that I've run that in training many times. But when it was at that time at mile 47, it was just... It was the right decision to make, and I'm extremely proud of myself for making that decision and not pushing it too far to the point of kind of making things potentially worse as far as my knee goes, putting myself in a bad and dangerous situation where I'm stuck out there in the cold. It's harder for rescue teams to get to me for that part of course, so I think I made the correct decision, and I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And my dad even said, he actually said, "This is one of the best decisions you made in your life," in his classic fashion. I thought that was a little bit of hyperbole, but thinking back on it now, it kind of shows that I've matured in my thought process a little bit, because when I was younger, not that I'm that old, but I tend to make some harsher, rasher decisions of things that might not be the safest, and now I've definitely improved in that regard. So that's one little reflection there. Training wise, I think I did a fantastic job of training. I felt cardiovascularly in shape to be able to take that. My legs were there for the climbs. Sugarloaf was a little bit of a challenge, but I think that would have been regardless, no matter how much more training I did. I think if there's one thing I could have done, it would be definitely more vert for that. But I think even with where I was at training wise, that I probably did more than enough to be able to be fine for the race, because even after that climb on Sugarloaf, which was the highest peak that we got to, it was like a 3,000 to 4,000 foot climb over the span of like 4-ish miles. Even when I was at like mile 40, I felt pretty good cardiovascularly. If I was able to run and my knee wasn't in pain, my legs felt good, my heart, lungs, everything felt good, I would have been able to finish the race running. So I feel really good from a training standpoint. Like I said, only thing would have been the vert to do a little bit more of, just to have a little bit stronger of a performance when it came to Sugarloaf and for those big climbs. But I don't think there's anything really much I would change. If anything as well, other than vert, is maybe add another week of 50 plus mileage or so. I was a little bit stronger, but I think if I did not have this knee injury, then I probably would have completed a little in advance of my goal time, and I'd planned for around 14 hours. I think I probably would have gotten like 12 to 13-ish hours if all was good out there. So I think went pretty well from a training standpoint, and if I have a future 100K with a lot of vert, then I'm going to train pretty much the exact same way. So luckily I have everything kind of logged in an Excel sheet, so I can just go back there and use that. So that's it training wise. Nutrition wise, I also think I did a great job. We have Kyoko here joining in for the nutrition discussion. I think I did a pretty good job. My nutrition plan was pretty on point with exactly what I needed. I've been dialing it down through kind of the training process and kind of figuring out what gels I like, how much I need as far as carbs per hour, how much I need electrolytes and all that kind of stuff. So I think I did a really good job of planning that out. I had a note card with how much I should consume by each destination. So I really did follow that, and I think I did a good job of that. The one thing I did not plan for was that when I'm out there for an extended amount of time, because I ended up having to walk so much, I needed more hydration because I'm out there for a longer amount of time and I do hydration per hour. So because I was out there for longer, I ended up having to do some math to kind of figure out how much more I needed, and I did that, but I definitely felt a little bit dehydrated. Normally you should be peeing at least a little bit when you're out there, probably like once or twice during the day. Maybe a little bit more frequently if you want to be really well hydrated. I didn't pee at all, so I'm probably a little dehydrated. But either way, I think that wouldn't have made that much of an effect. I think I felt strong overall from a nutrition standpoint, so that was good. What I did during the race was I had my gels. I aimed for around 80 grams of carbohydrates per hour that I was out there, for about 500 milliliters of water and about 400 milligrams of sodium while I was out there. So I hit that pretty good. At all the aid stations, I was just trying to eat something with a little bit of a fat in it and some carbohydrates, and that ended up being perfect because I had cheese quesadillas and kind of cheese and bean quesadillas at a lot of the aid stations, which is pretty much perfect. And then also the other thing I found at aid stations that was really nice was Baja Blast. Originally I wanted flat Coke just for the carbohydrates, but given that I was walking a lot and just to get some kind of different kind of sensation in my mouth, the fizz from the Baja Blast and soda in general is just really nice. So I did like 2 glasses of Baja Blast and slivers of some quesadillas at each aid station. It ended up being perfect. My stomach tolerated great and everything felt good the entire time nutrition wise. So it was definitely locked in there. Gear wise, I think I did a pretty decent job. This is where there were some deficiencies. So I brought pretty much everything I needed as far as the required kit. I probably could have gone lighter in the pants that I had for the cold weather kit because those were pretty heavy. I had some Lululemon joggers for that. I could have had a better rain jacket because it didn't really wick anything off and I never even really used it. So I think having a dual purpose outer layer and rain jacket would have been nice for reducing some of that weight as well. I also started off the race way too hot as I was wearing too much and then had to quickly take off some layers. So I lost a little bit of extra sweat there. And then also, I think I really should have brought poles. So I'm a relatively strong hiker and I don't really use hiking poles all too frequently anymore. I used to a while ago, but I don't anymore. And I thought I could get away with it, but I'm realizing that poles actually help quite a bit when it comes to offloading, especially the knees, which is where I got injured. And I didn't have poles, so on the climbs and in the descent, the poles that you use in both your hands are there to help offload and kind of use that to propel yourself a little bit as well. So I did not have that. Next time I do a race with any sort of elevation like this, I will definitely be having poles and make sure to have it in my training as well so I can practice with them. I decided not to bring them at the actual race because I didn't practice with them, so I didn't want to kind of throw off my rhythm. So that's something I will definitely be incorporating in the next one. Otherwise, everything else gear-wise was pretty dang good. I think I might also throw in some gaiters for my shoes. If you guys don't know what that is, essentially it's like a covering that goes a little bit higher up the leg that covers the opening of the shoe, kind of where my foot goes into the shoe. And that prevents small rocks, debris, dirt, and stuff from getting inside the shoe. And I had a bunch of small rocks kind of in my shoes for the entirety of the race. And even if I was kind of dumping them out every once in a while, they would kind of still be in there. So that's also in addition I would add to my gear. Other than that, I think my gear was pretty good. So those are all different things that I would take away for the next race. And then the last part, the course itself was a pretty challenging course. I mean, I guess it's my first 100K, my first trail race, so I don't really have any sort of comparison for how difficult it should be or for what level I'm prepared for or whatnot. But the race started off pretty mellow. There was a little bit of uphill, but a lot of very runnable stuff. And then kind of at mile 16 is really when it started to get difficult, and that's when we had the Sugarloaf climb. And essentially it was about like 5-ish miles of a 4,000 foot vertical, and essentially it was just continuously going up the entire time. I thought my fitness for that would be pretty good, but it still ended up being very challenging. I think it got also challenging because that's when the vertical really started to come in. We got to about 10,000 feet at the top. And then at the top, my legs were relatively feeling it at that point, and I wanted to make sure I could come down well, and already started to feel it a little bit in my left knee. So I took a little bit of a break for like 2 minutes at the top, sat there, made sure I caught my breath and was able to eat something up there, and then came back down. And really on the way down is when I really started to feel my knee, because the way down is really when you start loading most things. That eccentric load, kind of the pound on the way down, is the harder part, and that's when my left knee pain went from an annoyance to actually started being really painful and pretty excruciating at times. So I took it real slow starting from there, and at some point, kind of probably mile like 20-ish to 22, I started feeling like, maybe I'm not gonna be able to do this thing. But I kind of put it within myself to see how this knee was doing. By the time I got to the next aid station, by the time I saw my friends, family, crew, all that kind of stuff at the Sugarloaf aid station, which is 2 aid stations away. So I just kind of took it easy. I walked, ran as much as I could. A lot more of it was walking because there was a fair amount of downhill after that incredible vertical. So a lot of walking downhill, which ended up being fine. I still ended up getting a pretty mean power walk in at about a 14-minute pace, 14 to 15-minute pace. So that was pretty solid. So I was able to keep going doing that. Got to that aid station, and then thank God my brother and my wife were incredible crew who essentially helped me out with so much stuff. They got some Voltaren, which is a medication I put on my knee. They got me a knee brace, or like a knee like sleeve type thing, and then I had some Tylenol that I'd packed, and got going back out. And then the rest of the race was not bad. It was fairly runnable / walkable for me for the most part, so I just power walked all of it. And then at mile like 33 was another intense climb. So this was a lot shorter, so it was only like 1.5 miles, but it was 1,000 to 1,500 feet. And essentially we're just walking up a black diamond ski slope. And at this point, it doesn't sound that bad, but when you are 33 miles in and your legs are already pretty tired, then it can be pretty challenging to do it. So that was a really challenging climb. I think my leg felt okay during that, or my knee felt okay during that, but obviously fatigued very much. There's an aid station at the top of it where I met my family as well as my brother and wife again, so that was nice. And then that's when things started to get a little bit more difficult, because from that aid station, the next one was going to be in like 9-ish miles. So that's the part where it started to get dark again. My knee started to ache again after going 30 plus miles on it, already being bothered. And that's kind of when, if you watch a vlog, when I started to doubt myself and when it started to creep in. And then I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm mentally out of here. I didn't want to make things worse. And overall, relatively happy with that decision, because if I did stay out there, I might not have been able to walk, might have needed some sort of rescue crew to come if I'd taken one other slip or one other fall or something like that. So that's kind of it as far as race reflection goes. There's a lot more reflection in the actual video, so if you have not already, go watch that Kodiak 100K video, and then it kind of, you'll see my thought process and how the things are going on that day. So go watch that here if you haven't already.